This is Nan McKay, and I would like you to meet Samantha Kaaua. Samantha is a #1 Amazon best-selling co-author. She's a keynote speaker. She is a certified Inner Mosaic coach. She's an empowerment coach for married women, and she's the founder of the Gems with Samantha Kaaua, an international coaching and training company. So using her proprietary Inner Mosaic method, she helps women become their best selves while staying in but completely transforming their marriage. That sounds interesting. So welcome, Samantha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
You're the founder and CEO of the Gems, and you're a certified Inner Mosaic coach. So tell us a little bit about that certification and what you do in the coaching arena.
Yes. So I actually come from a background in marriage and family therapy. So I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I did get licensed, and I recently released that license and dove further into coaching. I just love coaching and helping people get from where they are to where they would love to be versus get from down in the dumps just to okay. So that's just a little backstory on the coaching and how I got to this place. And through that journey of being a therapist and all the schooling and education that I've received, I formulated a model that has helped many, many individuals through their darkest moments. And I used to call it shadow work, right? Because we were dealing with people's parts of themselves that they didn't want anyone else to see. They were hiding those parts of themselves in the dark, right? In the shadows. And it was causing some dysfunction and dis-ease to in their lives in many ways. And over time, I realized, oh, there is something called shadow work that is somewhat related and also not related. So let's rename this this thing that I do, that I help people with. And my daughter and I got to brainstorming, and one day we came up with the term Inner Mosaic, right? Each and every one of us have parts of ourselves that are born or created with different strong emotional impacts, different imprints and that happen when we have these impactful moments in our lives. And yes, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just wondering how you're doing this, because now it's sounding like you're working with each person individually, and then do you also work with them as a couple? Tell me about the process.
Yeah. So let me finish this particular thought as far as how that works.
Yeah.
And so yeah, each person has parts of themselves, and these different parts interact with the world around them, right? If you've ever experienced a moment where you felt like you were having an adult tantrum, I don't know. Anyone relate? No? I know that I have felt that way. I'm like, what is happening right now? I can't even help myself. It's happening. And it's likely a younger version of yourself, a part of you that's coming out because it was triggered, right? He or she or they were triggered in that moment. And normally our biggest trigger is our partner, is our spouse. They're the greatest trigger of all. And it's a blessing. It's a beautiful blessing. So yes, I do work mainly with women on their relationships as you mentioned earlier, an empowerment coach for married women. I love to support one partner. I normally like to call them the change agent in the relationship. So I work with the change agent to transform their relationship. I do as well work with the couple. So if they are both motivated in the relationship, I will do couples it's not counseling anymore, couples coaching with them. And it does produce beautiful results as well.
Do some of these encounters, I guess I would say, result in divorce instead of staying together, and maybe that's better for them anyway?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't personally worked with people who ended up in divorce. Not to say that that's bad or wrong. I think it's can be a very beautiful thing. What we work towards is not just staying married. What we work towards is the evolution of the relationship or the completion of the relationship. So what I like to say is I base my work on science. So if you look at the law of open systems, we live in an open system called an ecosystem, right? And if you change one part of that ecosystem by scientific law, universal law, the system either must adapt and change to accommodate that initial, it could be an extinction, it could be an environmental change, whatever it is, we need to adapt, or the whole ecosystem will come to a natural completion. And the same goes for marriages. So we're working towards either the evolution of the marriage or the completion of the marriage. And when it's complete, it doesn't need to look like a nasty divorce or a nasty separation. You will know in your soul, in your body, in your heart, that you have completed the journey together that you were meant to be on. And it's this calm, loving, kind glance back on what you guys had and what you created, and then saying goodbye in an amicable way into your next chapters. So yes, it could lead to that. I haven't worked with anyone that led to divorce, but that doesn't mean that it's not something that it could happen.
Do you see any correlation or any significance in how long the couple has been married together?
That's a great question. I don't know that there's any correlation on like the length of marriage, on the challenges that they're facing or the dysfunction that's happening. I tend to work with couples ranging from being married a few years to 30, 40 plus years are some of my couples. And they're just sick and tired of being sick and tired in the dysfunction that has been happening. And they don't want to divorce each other. They don't want to leave each other, but they just want something to change. So I think that challenges happen at every stage of our marriages. It just looks different sometimes. After decades of being together, different challenges arise. And it's about really gaining those skill sets to overcome them. Because I always tell my couples, it's not about never triggering each other ever again, or never having a conflict, or right. It really is more about using those opportunities, as I call them, to deepen the intimacy in the relationship. And if you can see each conflict, argument, not seeing eye to eye as an opportunity for intimacy, then that is the beauty of marriage, right? That's the beauty of the relationship.
Is a lot of what you're seeing as a problem related to just communication skills, or?
Oh, I love that question so much. Actually, I believe that it really isn't a communication problem. There are issues in our society with communication, yes. However, I do believe that it's trust and faith that is lacking in our society today. And I'm not talking about religious faith. I think that it plays a role, like, yes, and it's more than that. It's really having this faith that the universe, that if God is what you subscribe to, then God, or just a higher being, right? A grand overall design, universal intelligence, whatever you want to call it, and having faith in that, the unseen forces. And so that, I think, is the root of most of our relationship challenges right now, is lacking the trust in that higher power, in that higher source, in the grand overall design, and the trust in yourself, right? So in my journey, I realized it wasn't my husband that I needed to trust, it was me. And it was me and my source, right? And once I learned to have faith in something greater than myself and walk in trust without seeing any evidence, without seeing all the path, laid out before me, and then trusting myself to take the right next step, that was the miracle that happened in my marriage. It wasn't about him regaining my trust or him doing something different. And that's, I think, where the focus is in our society. And I think that's also why there's a high emphasis on communication, because if we can communicate what they're doing wrong, then they'll change. That's not how that works, right? If we can communicate with ourselves and our inner mosaic parts and learn how to trust all parts of self at any given moment, then I believe that we can have these beautiful, open, trusting relationships that will help all of us grow and evolve.
Can you think back to the people that you have worked with and think of maybe one person, no names, of course, but one person that really had a long journey, but came out the other side? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's so many. Even someone that I'm working with currently, I had a call with her today, and she was just saying, like, this has been the most rewarding journey she's been on yet. And she has had so much trauma in her relationship, area of life, where there's abuse and violence and betrayal and all those things that happened. And now in her current relationship, it's not about it being perfect. So when you say come out the other side, it's not about it just being rainbows and butterflies and roses all the time. It's really about her having the confidence in herself to navigate any challenge that shows up in her life. That's what I call the other side, right? It's not everything's happening in the way I want it to happen. It's more of life is happening and I feel in charge of me, showing up as me and who I want to be, and not being, thrown around by the waves of the world. Yes. And I think that's the beauty of the work that I get to do.
And therefore, it sounds like it affects far more than just a marriage.
Absolutely. Yeah. It really is about the relationship with self and source, then the relationship with your partner, which then influences the relationship in the family, and then that influences the relationship in the community. And and it just the ripple effect is so beautiful. And one of my main sayings is it only takes one person to transform a relationship, and everything's a relationship.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you find that people come to you as a result of an argument that they've had or something that's been bothering them for a long time? Or why do people make the decision to approach you?
Yeah, it's many of times for the women, they feel crazy internally. They come to me at a point in their marriage and in their relationship saying, I know I'm not crazy, but he's making me feel crazy. But I also know that I'm a part of this equation. I just don't know what to do anymore. Right? And so there's normally the trigger point is a betrayal of trust. And it's infidelity, it's substance use. It could be a form of cheating in their relationship agreement. Most of those are the reasons why I get a phone call and they actually take action. However, they know that it's deeper than that and they're wanting support they just don't know where to go from there. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, you recently co-hosted the Global Clarity Confidence Connection Summit.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea of a summit? And kind of tell me what you think the results were.
Yeah. So it was such a beautiful, organic journey to creating this summit. A friend of mine, my co-host, Nan McKay, she came up to me one day and she was just connecting with her fellow entrepreneurs. And she was like, what's happening in your business? What are you doing? What are you thinking? What are you planning? And both of us had an idea of doing a summit, and both of us didn't want to do it alone. And so we're like, okay, let's do it together. And so that was a yes. She went and spoke to another friend of ours, who's another entrepreneur. We all met in a mutual program, and she also was a yes, like, yes, I would love to do a summit. And so the three of us came together, and the first question that we were asked was, what are we going to call this? Right? What are we going to call this? So we went back into our minds. We were just coming out of COVID too, because our first summit was actually last year in 2022. And we're thinking about what most of our clients and even ourselves were struggling with. We were feeling discombobulated, unclear, disconnected. We lacked some confidence in ourselves in different areas. The three of us present so confidently. We're strong women, strong energy, and yet all of us still had an area where we felt not confident in. And so we realized the people we were speaking to wanted more clarity. They wanted more confidence in themselves, and they yearned for, longed for, desired more connection. So it was clear that that was our summit name, clarity, confidence, and connection. And we targeted, and not targeted, but the people we were speaking to were women, and excuse my language, but badass women who wanted to break through barriers and unlock their next level of success. And that was us. We were speaking to ourselves, and we wanted to bring in more community. So that was just a beautiful way that it unfolded. And then it just took on a life of its own. And I never, ever, ever had an experience where we had an idea and it came to fruition on that scale, the global scale that we had, in less than, I think it was 4 months. It was like June. She brought it up. We talked about it in June. And by September, we were having our first global summit. It was phenomenal.
Well, you've also been featured on many TV shows. And I'm thinking that many of our entrepreneurial women would like to do that. So
Yeah.
Tell us the secret of your media achievements.
Thank you. And I receive that. And yet the part of me that still lacks the confidence is like, me? You think I have a lot of media accomplishments? So I receive that. And I think where I was able to find that success was to lean into the connections that I had. So Ranchelle and Candice, my co-hosts of the summit, had connections, and that connection led me to be on this stage or on this platform, Apple TV Plus. I'm like, oh, cool. Now I get to be featured on here. Spotify, YouTube, all these amazing platforms. And every time I was given an opportunity, I said yes. So just like you, when you asked me, hey, would you love to be on my show? I said yes. And I think that's the key here, is doing it scared, doing it not ready, before you're ready, and being willing to be authentic and vulnerable and know that you have something that the world needs, right?
Kind of like holding your nose and jumping off the high dive.
Yeah. Oh, and you're so, what's so cool about what you just said was side story. I was 3 years old and I wanted to take swim lessons. And I went to I think it was like my 3rd or 4th lesson. And I said to my instructor, I want to jump off that board right there. And everyone was like, no, don't.
You're only 3.
And of course, like me, like I can do it. I am 3. Like, let me go. And I did. I walked all the way up to that diving board, and I jumped off, and I doggy paddled my way back to this the shallow side of the pool. So it's funny that you mentioned that, but that really is one of the ways that I operate in life, and that has given me these beautiful opportunities to share with the world on these platforms, was just continuing to say yes. right? Each person, each opportunity. Yeah. Okay. Sounds great. I don't know what we'll talk about, but let's do it.
Can I do this? I think I can.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you live in Oahu, Hawaii,
Yes.
and I've been to all the various islands many, many times. I just think it's one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yeah.
How is it to live in that beautiful place?
It's amazing. And I have to say, I was born and raised here, so I actually don't know what it's like to live in any other place in the world. But I think the thing that can happen to people who have been born and raised in such a beautiful place is we can take it for granted at times.
Yeah.
So what I'm very intentional about now is to take in the moments and take in the beauty that I'm surrounded with, because I know that that's not the case for everyone everywhere. And nature is just so in my back door. Like, it's just every turn I look, I'm looking out my window, I see the mountains, I see palm trees, and I know behind the wall here is the ocean. So I'm just beyond grateful and blessed. And I know that it's such a privilege. It's not everybody has the privilege that I have. So I just am very grateful to be here.
I think it's a calming place.
So much so.
Calming. Well, what's the one thing that you can provide to the women listening today to inspire them to the next level?
Oh, inspire them to the next level. I would love to share with them, like, circling back to where we started, right? That we talked about the inner mosaic and this model that I created and now share with the world. I would love to let each of the women know who's listening that you have the answers within you, that there's a part of you that's meant to be shared with the world. And that if you go out there and shine the light, right, of love on her, on that part of you, that magical things can happen. And you don't need any fancy tools or tricks or trade. Really, you are the gift. You are the gift, and go share you. And that's who people want to see.
All you need is within you now.
Absolutely, 100%.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I'm just so grateful to be here. I just love sharing my story and my message and meeting new people. So I'm just absolutely grateful for the opportunity today. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Samantha. It's been great talking with you.
Yay.